why is that? It's because there's so few geothermal systems, there's no competition for the maintenance contracts, and you have to hire specialist people to run it. So it actually is more expensive on maintenance. You do get lower bills, there's no question about that. But don't forget, and this is the part that I don't, it's one of those next leaps in the thinking about it, we just invested all this money in geothermal to keep our electric bills, or our, let me just say, our fuel bills lower. And this was adopted in about 2008 as part of the sustainability plan. What has happened since 2008? Fracking. Fracking has dropped gas prices 71% in 8 years. So we're already invested in that, and we're not picking up any of the savings from, or we're picking up a pro rata, smaller portion of the savings from the reduction in cost of fuel. We're not seeing it because we're already invested. We're paying the bonds for the geothermal.
Oh.
Yes.
So I guess the question is, and by the way, thank you for this. It's very interesting, and I'm glad to see somebody actually looking at this. My question is, how long are these buildings that we're applying these LEED standards and Gold Star and geothermal intended to last? In other words, we used to build buildings to be 100 years old. And it seems that now we build buildings to be 15 years old or whatever. So I guess my question is, if we're going to be investing this kind of money, that Parks and Rec Administration building, how long do they expect that to be used?
Well, I can tell you what they told me, and then I can tell you what we do in the private sector. What they told me is they plan on a serviceable life for all buildings at 50 years. That is reasonable. Because after 50 years, if you haven't already started, if you haven't replaced everything by 50 years, you're going to replace everything by 50 years. So 50 years is about right. In our business, we kind of look at serviceable life as, 20. Our amortization schedules are our depreciation schedule is 39 and a half. So,
So my point is, or why I asked the question, I guess, that was the point. What I was understood about doing this was the idea was we would put this money up front and it would be more expensive, but over the life and use of the building, we would save money because it's supposed to reduce the cost of heating the buildings, cooling the buildings, maintenance. That's what, isn't that how this is sold as to why we would do this?
Yeah, it's sold that way. Since we're on the subject, I'll just go ahead and read it.
Okay.
LEED. This is an article from 2014. This is an article from a few years ago. The New York Times reviewed a United States Green Building Council, which is LEED, study of 121 new buildings certified through LEED as of 2006 and found that 53% did not qualify for the EPA's Energy Star label. Another 15% used more energy per square foot than at least 70% of comparable buildings. That's that one. And Washington, D.C. just released data detailing the energy use of the city's large privately owned buildings. LEED certified buildings use more energy than non-LEED buildings. So they knew they had this problem. They were not telling anyone. They finally rectified it in this last version of LEED called V4, which I think I mentioned. And V4 actually requires building owners to submit their performance data to USGBC in order to get their certification. So 25 years later, they're finally responding to one of the key issues. Geothermal does not ever pay back, ever.
One of the reasons, apparently, that geothermal doesn't pay back is not many people are using it, so the cost is a lot higher. Could you see that if more people or more buildings used it, more residents used it, that the cost would come down enough to justify the use of it. I mean, like anything that's new that comes out, it's a lot more expensive. But eventually, as more people use it, the cost does come down. And generally, only the richer people buy, all these brand new cars and whatever. But eventually, the cost comes down.
I don't know a factual answer. I can give you an opinion.
That's what I'm asking. I know you.
My opinion is what they tell you is the well system, which is what Virginia Beach uses, should have a serviceable life of about 50 years. In my readings on this, I have come across an article or two that said some of these buildings are experiencing well degradation at about 30 years. Well, wells are a huge chunk of that, and if your wells fail, you're out drilling wells again. The other point that they don't cover, and in the, now I'll get into it, but for a regular building with those big rooftop condenser units, you've seen them. We swap those out about every 12 to 15 years when they're at the end of their serviceable life. The geothermal people say, well, we don't have that. I'll go, yes, you do, because you have to swap out your pumps and your fans every 10 to 12 to 15 years. Put that number in your equation and see if it still runs.
Just a comment to my question. I recently had to replace all the heating and cooling in my home. It had hit the 15-year mark, and I had to replace it. And the only reason I bring this up is, real numbers, my energy cost, because I updated it, dropped by 50%. Because a 15-year-old unit was replaced, and I'm saving 15%, which is significant. It actually, Noble almost pays for itself from the monthly bills. I didn't know that going in, I just knew I had to replace it. So your point about this stuff with replacing them, you do want to replace them because the technology improves in them. And if you kept with an outdated technology, you're not getting the benefit of those improvements. So this, what I'm trying to get to is, planning to use something static for 50 years probably isn't an intelligent decision.
Who does that?
Oh, okay, all right. So, you mentioned several times, and I apologize, I don't know very much about this topic.
Okay.
You talked about something called a sustainability plan.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that several times and said that they have that. Does our city of Virginia Beach have a sustainability plan, and then does that say you have to have leads?
Oh, yeah.
You just can't afford to sustain it.
Okay, so I didn't know that. So this is great, but how do you go about changing the sustainability plan?
Him and his cohorts.
I can just tell you, this presentation I made a huge stink over this Parks and Recreation
I saw
headquarters
you,
building,
thank you.
and have done it several times, and even presented Mr. Tierney's information. All I got out of that is they removed this acoustic sound wall.
They did.
They did.
That was a bad idea.
And they also removed the special sand coating something pavers that were like $300 and something thousand for these special kind of pavers. Those were the two things they removed because I was banging them away on the cost. And so to get the cost down, because I wanted this to go the other way, but they took out $750,000 of cost after about 4 weeks and 3 times before council. But in the end, that building has a high per square foot cost for an admin building. It's crazy.
All right, now I'm going to have some fun.
Well, wait, follow on that. So the city is talking about moving our municipal center to town center, and there's numbers floating around. I would assume, I guess, does this sustainability plan require the new municipal center to follow LEEDs and gold stars?
Yeah, of course.
And
Lead silver.
okay.
And
So-
they'll put in geothermal
So
too, unless somebody stops
that's
them.
driving up the cost of this that we don't have to do.
No.
And the current municipal center isn't LEED standards or anything, so they wouldn't have to do that.
All I can tell you is the per square foot that they're quoting, which I don't believe, is less than the per square foot cost of that Parks and Recreation
And
admin.
how can that be?
Exactly. I'm just
Oh,
sharing.
you're seeing the public-private proposal by,
I'll forget which proposal it is.
their square foot, they projected was less to get the cost there?
Whether it's the private-public partnership or the city builds it, the per square foot cost is less than the Parks and Recreation.
How is that
Well,
possible?
it's possible because you do start to hit your economies of scale curve at about 80,000 square feet. So it does start to drop your, it doesn't drop it as much as they're saying. I would see this building being at least, by the time it's all said and done, 25 to 30% more than what they're saying.
Okay, thank you.
No, wait, no, let me have some fun, please. Who has seen the floor plan for the Parks and Rec office? Okay, I know you've seen it, Are you ready? All right, pop quiz. Is this a new and strange and different Iowa crop circle? Or is this Mayan hieroglyphics? Or is this the floor plan for the new Parks and Rec office building? Look at that funky, ridiculous thing.
And all those angles cost money.
Because they wanted a world-class building in the middle of an old strawberry field. Thank you.
But it looks like.
Yes, sir.
You raised a lot of red flags or hot buttons for me. As we all drove by it this morning, we've got that new homeless shelter over here in the corner. I think it's coming in about 37 million, John, 36, 37 million, somewhere around
35,
there.
that's right.
Then right across the street, we have the Renaissance Academy, which is totally underutilized. That came in at 65 million. Then we had Kellam High School at 100 million. And this old donation school, which you're also familiar with. Now, the city hall, part of which, their cooling system, they freeze the water overnight.
That's
correct?
the court building.
And then that water during the daytime is cold and it goes through and then it's all recycled again. It's a very old system. I mean, it was very innovative, but I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play into any renovation of the municipal center. But in your professional opinion, would it not be more cost effective and better, a better project if we just left the city hall where it is, municipal, building one, renovated it in stages, and instead of having the vertical cooling, heating, HVAC system go horizontal like most buildings are done, and in the meantime, put the employees in some other buildings or bring in the big parking lots behind the building, high school trailers or middle school, elementary school trailers, where our children have been for the last 30 to 40 years, and let those folks operate out of there. That's a
You
question.
asked like 6 questions, so
Okay.
I'm going to hit them as best as I can.
Okay.
Number 1, keep it simple, stupid.
Big.
Stop there, and I'm going to pick up, and I'm going to go to the new Princess Anne Hospital. Big building, operates 24/7, 365. Right down the road. What's their system? Boilers and heaters.
Yep.
Why? Everybody knows how to maintain them. Everybody can give you a maintenance contract on it.
And high reliability.
They work. Natural gas prices are coming down. At the end of the day, works fine. But big building, so just to back up a little bit, depending on the size of the building, you do different things. At 100,000 square feet, I would say rooftop compressor units. That's my personal opinion on it. Easy to maintain, easy to replace, anybody will give you a service contract. Train will compete with Carrier and all the others. You'll get a good product at a good price. So,
Does that include that building, the cooler tower?
yeah, that's what boilers and chillers, yeah.
Okay.
See some contracts, puts chillers on this
Yeah.
building. And if you want to know who's the king, I think I'm pretty good at value engineering. Cecil is the man. And if Cecil's doing it, watch what he's doing.
And he also, like most of us in this room, thinks that we're dealing with a bunch of morons at City Hall. He won't tell that publicly, but behind the scenes.
They're not morons.
Well,
What they are bureaucrats who do not want to challenge the system or rock the boat because they're just working every day
Yep.
for retirement.
That's
Yes.
You didn't answer on the moving to City Hall, I'm sorry.
What about it?
Okay, thank you.
I'll give you an opinion on it. You could quietly, there's plenty of people who've had to own their office buildings through the recession, still having trouble refinancing it. Da-da-da-da. Go quietly buy a building for about $100 a foot, renovate it for about 30 or 40 bucks a foot, temporarily occupy it, and then you'll do that.
I have a question if I could. A lot of people that went to someplace, not a lot, have gone to ICF concrete buildings for energy and hot climates. I realize we're not one. What's your opinion on ICF construction? Which is the foam where they pour the concrete inside?
No opinion, have not worked with it. I do tilt-up concrete, and the building I proposed for the Parks and Rec was tilt-up. And it was only because it's simple, fast, easy to do. And that lasts 100 years. The police building was tilt-up concrete, but they had a force protection kind of an issue. So, they said, hey, Hugh, will it stop a rocket launcher? And I'm going, oh, sweet Jesus, a rocket launcher. I don't know. But we did do it, so it would stop, 7.62, the windows and all that kind of stuff, doors.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question regarding geothermal. I'm in the College Park Elementary School that I believe it was a $21 million, I'm not sure how many million, what more than that. There are any number of issues, but something I talked to you earlier about is that this building is only 3 years old or 4 years old, and one room is literally 80 degrees, and the room next to it is 49 degrees. So if we have this wonderful, innovative system, is it the controllers that are downtown because we don't have any control of it, or is it that the system was installed so inefficiently? What do you suspect?
If you're asking me what I suspect is, I think you just got a thermostat problem, or you have some sort of communication problem between the thermostat and if you're on what's called a VBTA system, variable air volume, they're not talking like they should. You should not have, in any system, that is a programming maintenance issue. That's not a systemic building-wide system issue.
And who, when they put these systems in, is responsible for seeing that the filter area, who decides that? Is it the person that's on site? Is it the engineer? Because they installed them underneath the projectors for Promethean boards. So
Constant battle. We have it on our side too. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a new building or a renovation and I'm going, guys, did you look at the floor plan before you put this thing in? No. Well, look at the floor plan and move it. I'm not paying attention to it.
I have a question, and Reed, you were talking about sustainability. If you go to the City of Virginia Beach website for the schools, it immediately on there talks about that. We actually paid for a chief sustainability officer. He spoke here. Tim Cole's his name. We had him speak one time.
My question was, okay, this is great, but what's the process for stopping this so that we don't keep repeating it in the future? So my question was, how do you get the sustainability? I mean, I've never even
It's the
heard.
first Tuesday after the first Monday in November in even numbered years.
Wait a minute. Okay, stop. Wait a minute. I'm going to answer your question. Only city council at this point is going to be able to change it because all the people on this sustainability committee have all drunk the Kool-Aid.
That is correct.
They worship at the altar of environmentalism and sustainability, and if there is something that they can derive $1 of tangible benefit for, or some emotional feel-good, they have no problem spending $1 million to get there.
So you might not know this, but Mr. Moss might. The Virginia Beach City Council manages what it's responsible for, but we also have this Virginia Beach Development Authority, which is an autonomous political subdivision of the Commonwealth, who handles building of buildings and ownership and land. Are they required to adhere to the city council controlled sustainability plan, or are they independent and can do this regardless of what the city council does.
The development authority is a means to finance buildings.